Hi everyone, welcome back to the C# series. In this video, we'll see the while and do while loops. Loops are used to execute a block of code as long as the specified condition is reached. We'll see how both of these loops work and the difference between them so that we know when to use each one of them. So we'll start with a while loop. The while loop loops through a block of code as long as a specified condition is true. So we can just write while, and inside parentheses, we write the condition, which is a Boolean expression that returns either true or false, and then the block of code will be written inside curly braces. To give an example, I'm just taking a variable, an integer variable, I'm giving it a value of 0, and I can int I variable equal to 0. I is actually an abbreviation for the index in programming, but it doesn't really matter how you name the variable. And then let's make the condition to be true when, let's say, the variable is less than 11. And then inside the curly braces, we want to print out to the console with this console.writeLine method the value of the variable. And in the end of the iteration, we want to increment this value, the value of the variable, by 1 by using the increment operator. So just by writing I plus plus So how this works is that in the first iteration, the value of the variable is 0. So the condition is true, and because of this, the value of the variable will be printed out to the console. And then, in the end, the value of it will be incremented by 1. In the second iteration, the value of the variable is 1, so the condition is again true, and the block of code will be executed again. This will happen until the value of the variable will get to 11. In this case, the condition will be false, so the program will just skip the loop. If we just run the program here, we should see a list of numbers from 0 to 10, which is basically what this code that we wrote here does. When we write a while loop, we should always make sure that its condition will be false at some point. Otherwise, if the condition of the loop is always true, the program would run the block of code forever, and this would result in an infinite loop, which we do not want. So in our loop here, if we didn't increment the value of the variable after each iteration, its value would always be 0, and the program would run the value of 0 over and over again. As we can see here, the program would run the 0 value just like over and over again the value of the variable, and this is an infinite loop. Infinite loops would just cause our program to crash at some point, and we do not want that. To avoid it, we should either take care of the logic of the loop, or we could also use the if statements so that when a certain condition is met, we want the program to just break out of the loop. Let me just change the logic here of our loop a bit, so that we can make use of this if statement. So let's say we want to run this code as long as the variable I is greater than or equal to 0. So let me just remove this. Just greater than or equal to 0. And in this case, this would actually be an infinite loop, since we would just increment the value of the variable after each iteration, and the condition would always just be true. And to stop this, we can just make an if statement so that when the variable reaches a certain value, just like, let's say, 15, we want the program to break out of the loop by just writing inside curly braces this break keyword, which we also saw when we saw the switch statements. This just makes the program to break out of the loop. And if we run the project here, we'll see a list of numbers from 0 to 15. When the variable reaches 15, the program will just break out of the loop. And what we'll see now is we'll see the do-while loop. The do-while loop is just like a variation of the while loop, but what it does is that the program just executes the block of code firstly, and then it reads the condition. So I'm just writing here the same logic of the while loop that we did before. So I'm just printing out to the console the variable value, and then I'm incrementing its value. And underneath, we write the condition. So while the variable is less than 11, let's make it again so. And in this case, we would still see the same result. We would still see a list of numbers from 0 to 15, from 0 to 10. But in other cases, for example, if we want the condition to be true when the integer is greater than 5, even though the condition is false in this case, the program would still just run the block of code once. And then when it checks that the condition is false, it would just like skip the loop. So we should use the do-while loop instead of the while loop in those cases when we want to execute the block of code at least once, no matter of the condition. So this was it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the video, and I will see you in the next one.